Starting off my list at number 10, I have the Phillies in 1980. While we did just see the Phillies get shockingly eliminated by the Diamondbacks in the NLCS, they have had some success in recent years, but they also had success back in the early 80s with a World Series to show for it in 1980 with players like Mike Schmidt and Steve Carlton. However, this team won't go down as one of the most dominant champions ever. While they did feature Schmidt in the lineup, who had a fantastic season hitting 48 homers and posting over a 1,000 OPS, only one other player, Lonnie Smith, posted over an 800 OPS. As for the rotation, Carlton was by far their best pitcher, pitching over 300 innings with a 2.34 ERA, and they had Dick Ruthven, who had a 3.55 ERA over 33 starts, but everyone else had an ERA over 4 and an ERA plus under 100. In the end, they got enough to get them through a weak National League, finishing with a record of 91-71 to just barely win the National League East Division over the Montreal Expos, and found themselves in the NLCS with the West Division winning Astros. Riding the back of Steve Carlton and second baseman Manny Trillo, they were able to win the series in 5 games and get to the World Series against the Royals. With Steve Carlton once again carrying them with the pitching, along with World Series MVP Mike Schmidt and catcher Bob Boone having a great series, the Phillies got by the Royals in 6 games to win the World Series. At number 9, I have the Cardinals in 2011. I've said this multiple times on this channel, but I like to try and forget the year 2011 for obvious reasons. On the other hand, Cardinals fans love 2011. They got hot at the end of the season and rode that momentum all the way to a World Series. Before September of that year, though, the Cardinals were in bad shape as they sat 8.5 games back in the wild card race. Up to that point, while they did rank 3rd in WRC+, they only ranked 16th in starting pitching and only 27th in relief pitching, as their bullpen had blown 26 saves on the year, the 4th most in the majors entering September. They also suffered multiple injuries that season, including Albert Pujols and David Freese, along with Adam Wainwright being out for the entire season. In the final month, though, they turned everything around, going 18-8 in their final 26 games to win the wild card on the final night of the regular season. They had a tough task in the first round, going up against one of the best pitching staffs of all time in the Phillies, but were able to ride the arm of Chris Carpenter and the bat of Albert Pujols to a series victory in 5 games. They went on to face their division rivals, the Brewers, in the NLCS, but wrapped it up in 6 games and went on to win one of the most exciting World Series of all time against the Rangers. This Cardinals team will go down as one of the most memorable, but they honestly had no business being in the playoffs at one point. At number 8, I have the Reds in 1990. After losing the NLCS in 1979, the Reds went on to have 10 seasons throughout the 80s of not making the playoffs. In 1990, though, the Reds finally broke that streak. Despite a subpar second half in which they went 41-42, they went on to win a weak National League West with a record of 91-71. In the lineup, you had some great players like Barry Larkin, Eric Davis, and Chris Sabo, while Jose Rijo led a solid starting rotation that ranked 9th overall, and the bullpen led by Rob Dribble was excellent, but the offense only ranked 17th in WRC+. In the NLCS, they played the Pirates and got solid pitching, mainly from the bullpen, as relievers Rob Dribble and Randy Myers won co-NLCS MVP. In the World Series, they went up against the defending World Series champion A's, who had the likes of Mark McGwire, Ricky Henderson, and Jose Canseco. In this series, though, the offense stepped up as they outscored the powerhouse A's 22-8 in a 4-game sweep. The Reds weren't a complete team in 1990, but they had players step up when they needed to. At number 7, I have the Braves in 2021. Let's get to the most recent one on this list, the Atlanta Braves in 2021. Now, don't get me wrong. This Braves team had some great players like Freddie Freeman, Ronald Acuna Jr., Dansby Swanson, and Max Fried. However, the Braves limped into the second half of the season with a record of 44-45, and they had lost Ronald Acuna Jr. for the year due to an ACL tear. By the trade deadline, though, the Braves got creative to replace Acuna's production as they made trades for 4 different outfielders: Jock Peterson, Jorge Soler, Adam Duvall, and Eddie Rosario. While this did help the offense get back on track, the pitching was still on the thinner side, with only Charlie Morton and Max Fried exceeding 165 innings pitched. They were able to ride a revitalized offense and get just enough pitching to win the division with only 88 wins. In the postseason, they pieced it all together by getting enough pitching from Fried, Kyle Wright, Ian Anderson, and the bullpen, and rode the bats of the outfielders they acquired by the deadline, with Rosario winning NLCS MVP and Jorge Soler winning the World Series MVP. At number 6, I have the Yankees in 2000. It's kind of weird to put a Yankees team from their three-peat on this list, but the 2000 Yankees were not the most inspiring team. While the offense was a strength, ranking 9th in WRC Plus with solid seasons from Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams, and Jorge Posada, while the rotation did have legends Roger Clemens and Andy Pettitte, along with solid names like David Cone and El Duque Orlando Hernandez, they averaged an abysmal ERA of 4.87. They had to lean heavily on the bullpen, which got excellent seasons from Mariano Rivera and Jeff Nelson. In the end, the Yankees survived a subpar September in which they went 13-17, winning the AL East by just 2.5 games with a record of 87-74. In the division round, they went up against the AL West champion A's, and while the series did end up going 5 games, the Yankees prevailed thanks to their great offense, which put up 6 runs in the first inning of Game 5, and a strong performance from the bullpen to help a struggling Andy Pettitte. In the ALCS, they rode a great series from Bernie Williams and the clutch bat of David Justice, who hit a go-ahead homer in Game 6 to advance to the World Series, a Subway Series against the Mets. While the Mets had a great year, they were simply no match for the Yankees, who got an amazing series from World Series MVP Derek Jeter, while Roger Clemens and Andy Pettitte stepped up to help the Yankees win the World Series in 5 games. Have you ever thought, why in the world is my wireless bill so freaking high? Well, let me tell you about Mint Mobile, who I'm partnering with for today's video. You might already know Mint Mobile if you've seen those funny ads from Ryan Reynolds, who is also an owner, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell directly to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Switching to Mint Mobile is super easy thanks to their digital eSIM cards. You can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your own home. If your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card for free. It only takes about 15 minutes to switch, and Mint has great customer service if you need help. And now, as a special limited time offer, you can get their unlimited plan, which is normally only $30 a month, for just $15 a month. That's a 50% savings off already their super low price. Click the link in the description down below, and if you've already made the switch, let me know how it is in the comments. At number 5, I have the Marlins in 1997. The Marlins were in their 5th year of existence in 1997, and after an 80-win season in 1996, not much was expected from this bunch. While the Marlins did have some good pitching led by a staff of Kevin Brown and Alex Fernandez, along with Al Leiter and rookie Livan Hernandez, they didn't have much with the offense. They did have a few good bats in Gary Sheffield, Moises Alou, Bobby Bonilla, and Craig Counsell after trading for him by the deadline, but not one player had more than 25 homers or a slugging higher than 500. In the postseason, they were actually able to sweep the Giants in the division series thanks to great pitching from Kevin Brown and Alex Fernandez, along with a Moises Alou walk-off hit in Game 2. In the championship series, though, they met up with the powerhouse Braves with an amazing staff led by Greg Maddux, John Smoltz, and Tom Glavine. It was easy to see the Braves winning this series. The Marlins took this personally, though, and thanks to great pitching again from Kevin Brown in Games 1 and 6, along with Livan Hernandez and the umpire striking out 15 batters in Game 5, the Marlins were able to stun the Braves and move on to the World Series. There, though, they faced a powerhouse lineup in the Cleveland Indians with the likes of Jim Thome, Sandy Sandy Alomar and Manny Ramirez. The Marlins pitching was up to the task though, as both teams found themselves in a Game 7. In the bottom of the 11th, Edgar Renteria smacked a base hit up the middle, scoring Craig Counsell to win an amazing and improbable World Series. At number 4, I have the Royals in 1985. The 1985 Royals had one of the best players of all time in their lineup, Hall of Famer George Brett. But that was pretty much it. While Brett had a fantastic year, hitting .335 with a 1.022 OPS and 30 homers en route to a second-place finish for AL MVP, no other player on the Royals had an OPS over 800, and the offense only ranked 15th in WRC+ and 16th in runs scored. Because of this, they really had to lean into the pitching. The starters Brett Saberhagen, Charlie Lee Brandt, Danny Jackson, and Bud Black helped them finish first in starting pitching that year, while the bullpen was okay, ranking 12th in ERA. At the All-Star break, they were only 44-42, but in the end, they rode a strong second half to finish with a record of 91-71 and just edged out the Angels by 1 game to win the AL West. In the ALCS, they went up against the 99-win Blue Jays and quickly faced a 3-1 deficit in the series. The Royals really had to count on their starting pitching and timely hitting, getting a complete game shutout from Danny Jackson in Game 5, big hits from George Brett and Buddy Biancalana in Game 6, and a big 3-run triple from Jim Sundberg in Game 7 to come back from a 3-1 deficit to advance to the World Series. There, they went up against the best team in the major leagues, the St. Louis Cardinals, who won 101 games, and once again, they fell down 3-1 in the series. They got another great start from Danny Jackson in Game 5 yet again, but it was Game 6 that people will remember the most. They got a solid outing from Charlie Lee Brandt, but also got a little help from umpire Don Denkinger. Jorge Orta hit a chopper to the right side, which was flipped to pitcher Todd Worrell covering the bag, and Denkinger called him safe when it looked pretty clear that he was out. The Royals offense ended up rallying thanks to some poor defense from the Cardinals and a walk-off blooper from pinch hitter Dane Lorg to force a Game 7 where the Royals offense that struggled for most of the year ended up exploding for 11 runs to win their first World Series championship. At number 3, I have the Giants in 2014. We all remember the historic postseason Madison Bumgarner had en route to a World Series championship, but the Giants that regular season were nothing special by any means. While they did comfortably win a wild card spot, they only finished with 88 wins. The offense was also not the best, only averaging a 99 WRC+ and a slugging of .388. While Buster Posey did have a solid season, finishing 6th in MVP voting, he had the highest slugging on the team with a .490, while the next highest went to Michael Morse, who had a .475. In fact, only Posey and Hunter Pence hit over 20 homers, and no players had over 90 RBIs. The pitching on this Giants team was also overall nothing special. Sure, Bumgarner had a solid season, winning 18 games with an ERA of 2.98, but Tim Hudson and Ryan Vogelsong were pretty average at best. Because of this, the Giants only ranked 25th in Fangraph WAR on the year. They did acquire Jake Peavy by the deadline, and while he was very good for them down the stretch, he was mostly ineffective in the postseason, posting a 6.19 ERA over 4 starts minus a good start against the Nationals in Game 1 of the division round. The Giants basically had to ride the arm of Madison Bumgarner in the postseason, as he ended up cementing himself as a postseason legend, posting an ERA of 1.03 over 52 2/3 innings pitched. Bumgarner and the Giants got through the Pirates with ease in the wild card round, and while he did take the loss in Game 3 against the Nationals in the division round, the Giants were able to close them out in 4 games against the Cardinals in the championship series. They won that with ease as well in 5 games, behind 2 great starts from Bumgarner, a solid series from Pablo Sandoval, and a walk-off homer from Travis Ishikawa in Game 5 to send them to the World Series. In the World Series, they were tested by an up-and-coming Royals team that pushed them to a Game 7. In this series, they needed every bit of Bumgarner they could get, and he delivered, picking up the win in Games 1 and 5 and the save in Game 7 in a 5-inning shutout performance from the bullpen. Without Bumgarner, this Giants team wouldn't have won the World Series in my opinion. At number 2, I have the Cardinals in 2006. The 2006 Cardinals still hold the record for the least amount of wins to ever win a World Series with 83, which still boggles my mind to this day. Don't get me wrong, this Cardinals team had some big names like Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, Jim Edmonds, Scott Rowland, and Chris Carpenter, but this was a dreadful regular season for St. Louis overall. While the offense did have the big names I mentioned, as a whole though, it was average at best, ranking 13th overall in WRC Plus and 14th overall in runs scored. What was worse though was the pitching. Sure, they had 15-game winner Chris Carpenter, but after that, it was less than desirable. While Jeff Suppan was fine with a record of 12 wins and a 4.12 ERA, Jason Marquis had an ERA of 6.02, Jeff Weaver had an ERA of 5.18, and Mark Mulder needed shoulder surgery. As for the bullpen, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either, as they ranked 23rd in Fangraph WAR with an ERA of 4.06. In the end, they snoozed to a Central Division championship in a terrible division overall. In the playoffs, though, things turned around. In the division round, they went up against the Padres and they were able to get to one of the best pitchers in baseball, Jake Peavy, while Chris Carpenter, Ronnie Belliard, and Albert Pujols led them to the next round. In the championship round, they went up against the NL favorite Mets. After a back-and-forth series, both teams found themselves in a Game 7, and thanks to some great pitching from Jeff Suppan, a clutch 2-run homer from Yadier Molina in the 9th inning, who was terrible offensively that season, and a curveball that buckled the knees of Carlos Beltran, the Cardinals shocked everyone and advanced to the World Series. They proceeded to shock the world yet again and beat a talented Tigers team in 5 games in the World Series behind great offense from World Series MVP David Eckstein and some great pitching from Chris Carpenter, Anthony Reyes, and the most unlikely of heroes, Jeff Weaver. And at number 1, I have the Twins in 1987. There are so many reasons why this Twins team shouldn't have made the postseason that year. Sure, the Cardinals at number 2 on this list only won 83 games, but they had enough star power that was able to step up in the postseason. The Twins in 1987, on the other hand, didn't have as much of that. The lineup was decent, ranking 12th in WRC Plus, as they did have Hall of Famer Kirby Puckett and some solid hitters like Kent Hrbek and Tom Brunansky, but not much else was behind them. For the pitching, they did have Hall of Famer Bert Blyleven and a solid arm in Frank Viola, but after that, the rotation ran thin as they only ranked 17th overall with an ERA of 4.47. As for the bullpen, it was abysmal, ranking 4th worst in Major League Baseball with an ERA of 5.11. Another reason this Twins team tops this list is their home and road splits. They were actually incredible at home, posting a record of 56 and 25, but on the road they were the complete opposite, finishing with an awful record of 29 and 52. Overall, the Twins finished with a record of 85 and 77, barely finishing ahead of the Royals in the AL West as they lost their last 5 games of the season. In the American League Championship, they went up against the 98-win Tigers and got by them with ease in 5 games behind great hitting from Gary Gaetti and solid pitching from Bert Blyleven. They found themselves in the World Series against the 95-win Cardinals, who would prove to be a tough task as the series went 7 games. Behind solid offensive performances from Steve Lombardozzi, Kirby Puckett, and Don Baylor, along with grand slams from Dan Gladden and Kent Hrbek, and phenomenal pitching from World Series MVP Frank Viola, the Twins were able to win their first World Series in franchise history. So that's my list. Tell me what you think down below. Do you think some other teams should have made the list? Let me know down below in the comments. If you can on the way out, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.